A family trip is a wonderful opportunity to bond and make memories. For some families, visiting new places together is an adventure, especially if you decide to visit a different country. But visiting other countries can be difficult in more than a few ways. Nothing really works the way that you expect it to, and that can come with some pretty significant dangers. Sometimes it can even get you killed. My name is Brienne, and I'm the host and creator of Among the Dirt and Trees, a show where we explore true crime cases that occur out in nature. In today's episode, we're going to discuss a group known as the Death Valley Germans, a family of 4 who disappeared in Death Valley National Park in 1996, only to be found in 2009. Kind of. Today's episode was recommended by a listener by the name of Beetle, and it's one of those missing persons cases where it's impossible to know if it's really traditional true crime or not. But what we do know is that 4 people went missing. Conclusively, only 2 have been found, and really only 1 has been verified, but we'll get to that. So big thanks to Beetle for suggesting this episode. It is really cool that you guys have started making recommendations for cases. At least it has cut down on how much time I spend looking for dead people on the internet, so there's that. Thank you. During the summer of 1996, a family of 4 decided to leave their home in Dresden, Germany for a trip along the West Coast. This family consisted of 2 adults, Egbert Rimkus and his girlfriend, Cornelia Meyer. They were accompanied by their children, George Weber, who was Egbert's 11-year-old son, and Max Meyer, Cornelia's 4-year-old son. This was supposed to be an exciting trip to California that the family would never forget. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. Instead, it turned into a trip that their families would never forget when they never returned home. Now, for this trip, they had a lot of big plans. They stayed in hotels, and they even decided to rent a minivan for their travels. In case you're wondering, yes, I did hop on Google to see if Germany has minivans, or if this was a fun part of their American tourism experience, because I really had no idea. It turns out that they do have minivans in Germany, but according to some experts, minivans are now becoming less popular, so good job, Germany. Their travels took them all over California and into Nevada, and this is where the first red flag comes in this case for me. Nevada, the home of Las Vegas, is known for one pretty specific thing: gambling. And the family did stay at a casino. Ultimately, this led to Egbert calling his ex-wife, the mother of his child, to wire them $1,500. It's unclear at this point if they were running out of money or if they wanted more money for gambling, but $1,500 is not a small amount of money, and it wasn't in 1996 either. On the agenda for the family's trip was a visit to Death Valley National Park. Egbert was in communication with his ex-wife prior to entering the park, and there is a decent trail of their time in it. They visited a bunch of popular areas, stopping by visitors center to learn new things and camping. Interestingly enough, Cornelia shared their next destination at one of the visitor centers, which would eventually be a point of interest. Unfortunately, as far as the public knows, this is one of the last things that they ever did. 5 days after entering the park, this family of 4 was supposed to be on a return flight home, but they never showed up. They missed their flight, and rather quickly, their families wanted to know what happened to them. I can't imagine the fear that would come with that, knowing that someone was supposed to return and then just never hearing from them. It wasn't long before Egbert's ex-wife was calling around looking for answers and the location of her son, but no one could help. Months would go by before there was any trace of them, and what police found was not exactly good. 3 months later, they found their car, and not under normal circumstances. The car was located abandoned in a really obscure location, and not just like, oh, what a weird place to go, obscure, more like a designated protected area where you shouldn't go at all. And rumor is that rangers only found them because they were looking for drug labs. So, not exactly where you would expect a happy family to be hanging out. To make matters worse, the car was in really bad shape. The car had flat tires and structural damage from driving on all kinds of really intense terrain. The reports basically said that the car was driven into the ground on flat tires and then driven for several more miles. Inside, there were a bunch of items that clearly belonged to the family, including a lot of things that were pretty important for survival, like a tent. It was unclear if the family drove the car that far themselves or if there was any chance that someone stole it and drove it out there, possibly to one of those drug labs that police were looking for. Either way, it wasn't a spot that anyone wanted to be, and it made everyone even more worried about what happened to them. The car itself had its wheels basically buried in the mud, making it look like whoever was driving had to abandon the vehicle and continue on foot. A new and much bigger search began, but they really didn't find anything. 13 years would pass before the next discovery. In November of 2009, 2 hikers were actually out actively looking for the family. Like many, they had developed an interest in this strange disappearance. As they were hiking, they stumbled across 2 bodies. They were adult bodies, and if there was any question of who they were, the clear identification with them was very telling. Police were able to prove that one set of the bones belonged to Egbert, but the others couldn't be proven. Of course, the fact that Cornelia's passport was nearby was very telling. The only question was, where were the children? Now, rumors say that the children were also found nearby, but there really isn't an official record of this, so it's unclear if this is true or just someone trying to tie a nice bow on a sad story. What makes this more confusing is that we don't actually know how the family died. The prevailing theory is heat stroke, but that really hasn't been proven. For all we know, they could have been abducted and killed by rogue gamblers looking for money or by local national park drug lords. But the most likely option is that they simply got lost and succumbed to the elements. The temperature in summer in that area is well over 100 degrees, and Death Valley's name meets its reputation for a reason. It's one of the hottest places you'll ever visit if you go at the right time, like in July. Strange Outdoors reported that the temperatures at the time were about 124 degrees Fahrenheit and 51 degrees Celsius, so not great. But their estimates also said that given the altitude of where the vehicle was found, it could have been about 10 degrees lower. Sadly, it seems like this family went seeking adventure and got a little lost along the way. To make matters worse, one of the main theories from one of the rescuers, Tom Ahoud, suggests that the family was trying to reach a nearby naval air weapons station. Because in Germany, a place like that would have a patrolled perimeter, which meant eventually someone would roll by that could help them. Unfortunately, help never came, and the family passed away. But without any real conclusive evidence to explain how they died, their deaths remain a mystery to this day. Some rumors say that the family ran away to start a new life or ended up getting killed by groups ranging from local murderers to the government. Sadly, regardless of what happened, this family never made it home. And a lot of people are still waiting on more information. So, if you want to discuss Death Valley, signs of heat stroke, or tips for staying safe while visiting a foreign country, feel free to contact me on Twitter or Instagram using the tag @DatPod. Thanks, guys.